Hello, hello, and good morning to everyone. I'm not sure if we'll be reposting this particular webinar, but if we do, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I love that movie. Welcome to the Trotec Laser webinar seminar. Gosh, I'm not sure what we're calling this, but we are here with the IDC, and we are so thrilled to be presenting for everyone who's going to be tuning in live today. I think as you guys begin to file in, it's okay if you don't come in at the very first moment. We're going to give it a couple minutes here just to say hello and introduce ourselves. But we're really excited to meet you. So just thank you so much. Our producer, Lev, is in the background here. He'll probably pop in from time to time to say hello. There he is right there. Thank you, Lev. He'll probably pop in from time to time to say hello. And when I've forgotten something important, either he or Justina will come in to correct me. I absolutely promise you. But if you are watching, definitely let us know. Say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know sort of your role or what it is you're affiliated with the IDC for. As I mentioned, I've got my very talented co-host, Justina, here with me. How are you this morning?
Hello. Well, thank you very much for the compliment. I'm doing very well here in Toronto, clear skies. So, you know, that always has a good effect on your mood. So very happy.
Very true, particularly as we get into these more wintry months. I love to see a day that's a little bit brighter and a little bit, you know, more beautiful. Wow, what is the weather like in Germany today? And in Portugal? Actually, don't tell me what it's like in Portugal, because I'm going to be very jealous. I have a feeling.
Oh, we're all in the same boat on that one.
Indeed, yeah. We're coming to you from our HQ, our nerve center here in Toronto, as Justina mentioned, and it is not. It's brisk. It's brisk. We'll say that it's brisk.
There we go. Brisk. That's a good adjective.
Yeah, I like that. It says cold without saying, you know, welcome to Canada.
I know.
It's cold in Portugal. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Watching from Italy. So happy to have you all here. Rumiz, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much. We're just getting everything set up here in the background. As I said, we have Lev, our producer, who's going to be popping up some of your questions. I wanted to let you know that we are really going to do sort of, I mean, today's going to be very informal as it's our very first presentation with the IDC. We really wanted to give you guys an idea of who we are, and then also sort of what the general, you know, the sort of thrust of our laser technology, particularly when it refers to interior design, sort of is. So, you know, what sort of materials you can work with generally, what sort of projects some of our, you know, customers and various designers from around the world have accomplished. What we would really love, though, more than anything else, what would make me really happy is to see you guys asking questions. So getting involved, asking us the sort of stuff that you would like to see, you know, what's something you'd like more information on. We're going to show a variety of examples today that Justina has been working tirelessly to find. You found some really cool examples from around the world, I have to say.
Yeah, well, there's just so much creativity that goes on. So laser technology has been around for quite some time. Perhaps we have some laser users who are on this particular webinar who use their lasers for more than a decade, which is likely the case. But over that time period, so especially within the last 10 to 15 years, there has been a tremendous increase in the use of lasers for interior design applications. So that's enough for now. We'll definitely get into some more details throughout this presentation. And as Don mentioned, please do feel free to ask any kinds of questions, because there's a lot of content to go through, and we hope you really enjoy this seminar.
100%. Whether you're a seasoned laser user or whether this is the first that you're kind of getting into lasers or into particularly interior design in lasers, I hope there's something good in here for you. Again, we have Lev, our producer, in the background, and we're also going to have our applications expert, Miguel, who's working from our showroom. There's Miguel. Hey, Miguel. He's going to be doing some various projects for us this morning, pulling up some samples and stuff as we're talking and going throughout the presentation, so you have that to look forward to as we go. This morning, we're using just some very basic materials. So we're doing some bright and cool colored acrylic, and we're doing some MDF just to show some really exciting stuff with wood. But we, you know, certainly want to show you some exciting examples that go far, you know, above and beyond what we have just to do here in the showroom, really basically. And I hope, you know, again, we can get your imaginations firing, and you can kind of let us know, you know, what you would like to see more than anything else. With no further ado, though, maybe I guess we'll get started. What do you think?
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right. So really quickly about us. Trotec Canada is sort of a special story, you know, and it's close to our hearts, but, you know, we represent a bigger company that's headquartered out of Austria. You know, for anybody who doesn't know, Trotec Laser specifically began when our sort of mother company or our HQ company, Trotec, who makes stamps predominantly, was looking for a laser solution to be able to laser rubber and create stamps of a super high quality, and could not find a solution that they felt hit the quality benchmark that they'd like. And so they started manufacturing their own lasers. They began an R&D that is still going strong to this day. Basically, you know, if you can't beat them, I don't know, if you can't join them, beat them. What's the opposite of that?
There you go.
expression?
That's perfect. If that's the ideal situation, you know, if you can't beat them, invent something that works even better.
Yes, exactly. As I'm sure most of the designers and very talented designers who are watching right now would know already. Trotec Canada, us specifically, we've been operating for about 12, 13 years now. We have 4 offices across the country. Hopefully there's one near you. We would very much love, particularly when some of the current, you know, stuff going on in the world has passed, for you to come out and visit us. Obviously, we're doing all, you know, safe social distancing practices at the moment, but we also offer all kinds of demos of our machines online. If you'd like to send us an email, either, you know, today or in the future following the presentation, you can always reach us at youtube@troteclaser.ca. We'll also, you know, hopefully be able to make this presentation available for download after. Thank you so much, Lev. We'll also be able to make this presentation available for download after the presentation is concluded, but we'll have to look into that sort of on the easiest and best way to do that. But not to worry, no worries about furiously taking notes like you're me in university. You know, we'll be able to make this all available to you as we go forward. We have a pretty big team here in Canada. We get a lot done with a lot of talent. As you already met Miguel and Justina, obviously Lev, we said our producer in the background, who is our marketing director. We have a robust tech team. We have a whole consumables department. We have a client service department, Deborah Smith, our talented president, and then our sales guys who you know, are spaced out across the different provinces. Again, I really hope you'll get a chance to meet one of them one day if you can visit us for an in-person demo. On to the fun stuff. So again, you know, for anybody who's joining in a little bit late, one of the main things I'd like to do today is try and encourage you to ask questions. So, you know, although this represents just a general, you know, smattering of the different sort of products that you can work with lasers. Hi, Jason. So happy to have you here. There are, you know, innumerable different things that you can do with lasers. I mean, Justina can sort of speak to, you know, having worked in our marketing department for quite a while, you've probably received calls on everything from lasering signage to, gosh, I'm trying to remember some of the fun ones we've gotten. Shellfish.
Oh yeah, shellfish was one of them. I don't know if that lends itself quite well to interior design, but there have been attempts. So the neat thing about lasers is that you can really work with a broad span of materials, as you can see on this particular slide here. So everything from leathers to acrylics to woods to stone. And that enables a great degree of creativity, because essentially you're able to work with different material combinations and test different designs with different power settings, as I believe Miguel will showcase. And the real benefit of that is that you're able to create a unique custom piece. And when you're selling your products or designing products in a business context, that delivers great value to a client or a customer who's looking for a really unique product or wants to execute a particular vision. So that, in a nutshell, would be the value, I would say, for using lasers in an interior design context to move into that area.
Yeah, definitely. You know, to that end, actually, let's talk a little bit specifically about those types of products. So again, you know, this is not an exhaustive list, but this will give you a very sort of general idea. We principally offer 2 different kinds of lasers, and this is, you know, sort of what you'll see in the market for the most part. Here at Trotec, we specialize in CO2 lasers and fiber optic lasers. A CO2 laser, sort of in a general sense, is going to work with most organic materials. A lot of the lasering that you'll see on YouTube, for example, or on Etsy is going to be a CO2 laser. So things like wood, glass, stone, as Justina mentioned, which I always think is really, really cool. Also the acrylic that you see there in Miguel's window there that it's working on. That's one of our large format lasers. I should take a quick moment to mention too. That sheet you see it cutting there that looks so small in the bed is actually 48 by 24. So that's 4 foot by 2 foot. That actual machine is very, very large. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get a better shot of it, but we have a lot of great videos on our YouTube channel where you can see the full machine. Yeah, there it is. Thank you, Miguel. It's a beautiful, awesome, large format machine. So if you're working with, you know, in some of the examples we see coming up here, larger sheets of wood or rolls of fabric, whatever it may be. We certainly have lasers to accommodate that. But, sort of returning to the list of materials here again, what you see there is an acrylic, but also, plastics, even food, as it mentions there on the list, that's all done with CO2. The fiber optic laser, which is a little bit more specialized, is if you're working principally, you're looking at marking metal surfaces. So things like titanium, things like stainless steel, aluminum, that sort of stuff. Anything that's sort of a raw metal, you'll be able to mark that with the fiber optic. And then a lot of our lasers, as you'll see on our website or oftentimes in our YouTube videos, you'll hear us referring to using a flex machine. That is a laser that has both different CO2 and fiber sources in the same package. So you can swap back and forth between them independently. You can do different types of materials, half of your bed in plastic and half of your bed in steel. It's a really, really cool application. It's something that isn't for everybody necessarily, but for those who need it, they really value it, I think.
Of course.
We have a series of video projects. These represent, a lot of the basic materials more than anything else that we thought, we hope would be valuable to you. Again, if anybody has any questions about the materials, about the sort of stuff you can use with the laser, do not hesitate to ask at all. I'm going to pop one of these open really quickly. This one in particular, I think, is really cool. It was done as a design contest with a local design university here in Ontario, OCAD, if you're familiar. For those in the know, this gentleman, Luca, designed these full-size chandeliers that now hang in our showroom and did them out of, as you can see here, wood and out of acrylic. They represent sort of well, one of the reasons I really like this application is they represent an area of lasers that I don't think everybody necessarily thinks of immediately. These are, all made with the sort of flat 2D planes that you would imagine seeing in a, yeah, Miguel's got them in his camera there. You can still see them hanging. We love them. They, although the materials are completely flat, you can use your ingenuity to create fully 3D objects. That backboard you see there in the back is all made with laser. All made with acrylic, just like this one that Miguel is cutting here. So, something like this, you're really only, and I hate to say this, but I find myself always saying it, it's so cheesy, but you really are sort of only limited by your creativity. Justina sort of spoke to the flexibility of the laser, one of the main aspects of it being the number of materials you can work with, and that's very, very true. Particularly when you have a customer who wants to work with even something that is perhaps a little bit out of the ordinary. Speaking of which, this particular video, ignore this fella in the video. This is a really cool company out of Vancouver, BC, here in Canada, called Chop Value. They make a beautiful product out of recycled chopsticks that they source from local restaurants. But using a laser, we're able to not only engrave this product and do custom sort of designs and things on top of the surface, as you see here, but then also cut it to, pretty much any size, as long as your material is fitting on the bed. This is something that is entirely unique to this company and is very, very laser friendly. If you were to open a Chop Value franchise tomorrow, a Trotec laser is an integral part of, sort of what you would receive in the package. Gosh, do you have any suggestions, Justina? Any of these videos that speak to you? Any you'd like to see?
Well, I think that within the context of interior design, the acrylic chandelier and the Chop Value products that you showed are also really, really applicable to what a lot of clients are looking for nowadays. But I also think that the custom wooden blinds video that was right next to the acrylic chandelier showcases a really, really common laser application, which involves, as you'll see, laser cutting very intricate designs into a sheet of MDF. So just as a disclaimer, don't worry so much about the charring that you'll see there, because sometimes some people they simply like to keep it the way it is. They like that effect that it has, but it can be easily primed and coated with paint to create really interesting designs. So whether they're backlit or used as partitions, that's something that you see more and more in different both public and private environments.
Mm-hmm.
And
also, hey guys, sorry to pop in. Also for acrylic, a lot of the people, if they're usually using a CNC machine, they would do a flame polished edge on acrylics. With lasers, it already comes with a flame polished edge. So if this MDF board would be, let's say, acrylic, there's no after treatment needed afterwards. I just wanted to add that in as well.
Have any of our viewers, I just wanted to ask today, have they attempted an application like this or a similar one? Have you tried chandeliers or appliques or any screens? Let us know.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point. If you have a laser, I'd be so curious, as Justina says, to sort of think about, what are the interior designs, type applications that you yourself have done, or perhaps some of the ones that you've seen that you think would be really cool for us to either investigate more or to be able to sort of speak to this morning. One of the last ones I also wanted to show you really quickly, and again, we're going to get into some more interior design, specific applications coming up here in just a second. But I wanted to show this because, as I singled out earlier, stone is one of my favorite ways to use the laser. It's one of the things that I was most surprised by when I started working here, and it works absolutely brilliantly. It's gorgeous, I personally think. Again, too, this little pop-up here reminds me I should mention all these videos are just sourced directly from our YouTube channel, Trotec Laser Canada. If you'd ever like to try one of these applications yourself, if you have one of our lasers, you can rewatch any of these videos there, and also download the files. You can get all the different settings and things for the laser. Ben has done a chandelier before, and some creations for a larger window. I'd be so interested to know how that worked out. If you have an Instagram or anything that we can see, I would absolutely love to see that. But something like this, I think, is an application that maybe a lot of people don't immediately think about when they look at a laser, but it is something that it is absolutely, I don't think you'll find a better way to mark stone. Certainly you can use sandblasting to get a very deep marking on stone, but in terms of this type of, and with a portrait like this, you really want to get that high detail. You're never going to get a higher detailing and better finish than with laser.
Of course, and I just wanted to add that, interestingly, stone can be used both for floor applications. So, for example, what's commonly done is that a artist will create a medallion and engrave that and put it kind of in the middle of a hall or a foyer. And you can also, of course, engrave stone and adhere it to the wall so that you have a consistent, really unique mural or design. And we'll get into a little bit more of that a little bit later on.
You know what? Actually,
yeah. Oh, sorry, Don. Can you just go back for a second? I just wanted to show that you can actually use color. That masking tape that we were showing. Yeah, we actually sell this masking tape. You can put the masking tape over, engrave the stone, even wood, acrylic with the masking tape. Maybe not acrylic, but stone specifically. And we used a regular spray paint after the engraving part. So you guys, once we show you guys the other businesses that actually use lasers in their applications, you'll see where it's coming from and probably how they do it. So this is how we got the color onto the stone there.
Yeah, Lev, essentially single-handedly ran our YouTube channel for many years, and so he knows the sort of questions that he very frequently gets in comments. So after many years of answering the question, how the heck did you get that stone to turn that pink color? The answer is spray paint.
And the paint adheres really well to the engravings, because actually when you're engraving stone, you're creating very, very small fractures in the material. So if you've ever engraved glass, it's a similar concept where typically a laser would vaporize the material, whereas here you're creating, imagine, really, really small cracks in the stone.
Dom,
exactly
can you
right.
show the denim and the denim video as well? And Justina, maybe you could talk a little bit to that. I know in your research, a lot of people are doing blinds, like is it polyester blinds? So we just want to show how the laser works with fabrics as well. Justina, if you want to mention that.
Of course. So denim's a little bit of a different story because it's a natural material, it's cotton. So traditionally typically what you'd see with upholstery and yes, blinds, as Lev mentioned, is that they're synthetic fabrics. So when you cut them, you actually get a flame sealed edge. And this is usually beneficial from a manufacturing standpoint because you avoid fraying and tool wear. And of course, displacing the fabric as you're processing it. But from a design standpoint, and we'll see a few examples later on, you actually can create unique designs via perforation. So you can perforate, imagine the blinds, so to create a design or to create a consistent pattern throughout. And the results are really, really unique, and you'll get to see a little bit more of that soon.
Absolutely. I want to call attention to also, you've seen it in some of the applications we've already seen. I sort of mentioned the level of detail that you can get. Particularly, we had Doug from HBA mentioned, he'd like to learn about doing the window engravings, and you can see Miguel's engraving there that he's doing on the acrylic. It's super, super detailed. A Trotec laser, we guarantee down to tolerances of 0.01 of a millimeter. So, regardless of if you're working with a very, very fragile material, we frequently do work with paper, and even to Justina's point, denim being cotton, it was tricky certainly to find the perfect settings for this, but we were able to get, as you can see, a really beautiful finish without fraying and without burning on the laser. It's just a matter of a bit of trial and error. If you're working with a huge, something like a window blind, and maybe we'll show that coming up here next, where you're doing sort of perforations, even if it's a very, very thin material, it's no problem for a laser to handle to give you this sort of really beautiful finish. Especially if you like Star Wars.
If you want to fast forward it, it's okay. I was going to say, if you want to fast forward in that video a little bit, we actually did, right there. It's a rawhide leather. So we first engraved it. The engraving looks very crisp, and then we go through the cutting. So if people want to see how the cutting works with fabric, it's actually much easier to cut versus any other hard materials like wood or acrylic.
LaserTech Botswana actually mentions that they did quite a bit of fabric cutting with the laser, which then clients would use, to stitch to intricate clothing or decor or various artworks, kind of like you're seeing here. Again, sort of going to some of the student-run competitions that we've done in the past, we've even had, a version of this application done by students with a really beautiful, anatomical heart patch that then they used a bright red thread to sort of stitch to the garment to make it look like veins and blood and things kind of pumping through the heart. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, and I guess, Don, just the last video, if we could show the Gord Downey, the stained glass window. This is all acrylic. If you're talking about interior design, something like this, that was done on a large scale. You can do smaller scale on smaller bed sizes, but that's a good application right there in terms of acrylic, and that's still on our window. Miguel, if you want to point the camera onto the window, it's still there. He probably doesn't hear me. That's okay.
At least I hope so. You can see actually this SP2000 is the same one that Miguel is using in his. Yeah, there it is right there. As Lev mentions too, a project like this certainly, was most easily done on a large scale machine like this. But one of the best things about laser, to my opinion, is sort of the basics of how it works is relatively unchanged from the smaller machine to the very largest machine that we have. So even if someone starts out with a Speedy 100 or a 300, some of our smaller, more sort of production engraving, style machines, and wants to move up to something like this SP2000 in terms of, their production is ratcheting up, whatever it might be. The basics of working with the software, the basics of how the laser itself is going to interact with your material is going to remain completely unchanged. There's no secret to, working with the larger laser versus the smaller laser. It's all the sort of same skill set and design skills that you're going to be able to implement, across the sort of Trotec range.
And I also wanted to add, when working on a larger project, as you'll see, there's a lot of material that goes into it. So if you wanted to make a test, it's really easy to be able to prototype. So even on a larger machine, you can simply place a smaller piece of acrylic and then cut out the components and put them together. And that's something that you'd see in a lot of different architecture firms or engineering firms, where before you actually build a model, you want to test its structural integrity, and as well, obviously, as the design components.
Yeah, that's very true. Phil actually has a fantastic question that I would like to pose to Miguel. So he's asking just about the type of files that you would need for the different lasers to work with the different lasers. I'm not sure if Miguel will be able to sort of speak to the different file formats, the different file types.
Most of the time is just a vector-based file, so you can go with a PDF. But honestly, if you're just engraving, you can use anything. I was talking to a customer this week that he used a Word file to engrave on what's the name of the thing? Johnny Walker Blue bottles. And yes, I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Using Word documents. So yeah, you can use that for engraving, but for cutting, you need a vector-based file, right? You need to have vectors, unless you're using Ruby.
Yeah, I was just going to add, you can use any design software, so Photoshop, Illustrator, any CAD software, and print it basically onto the laser. Well, we use our job control software, but the design element can be any file.
I just wanted to add a really quick point about that. I won't delve too deeply into it, but Phil, it has to do, all these software have to do essentially with how the program communicates with the laser. And you can see this kind of on the instructional videos. There's a ton of them on the YouTube channel, but just really briefly, the way that the software reads what the design essentially in your file is, it looks by what types of colors you use, and those colors are interpreted as engravings or cuts. And definitely recommend to check out the basics videos. There's a couple for Adobe Illustrator, AutoCAD,
CorelDRAW,
Inkscape, yes, and it's the same basic concept of how the machine interprets or reads that file. And hopefully that'll provide a little bit more detail, but definitely check those out. Absolutely.
Really quickly too, I believe Alex is referring specifically to the video we just watched. In this particular case, so we offer a 3M adhesive that you can put on the reverse of our materials when you purchase them. In that particular case, we used a sheet of clear acrylic to place all the colored acrylics on top of, and then we use that 3M adhesive on the reverse of the materials. It's entirely transparent, but it allows for a really powerful, long-term adhesion to, whatever you stick it to. When Miguel showed the showroom there, and it had those huge letters up on the wall. We even have a giant, map of Canada. That's all, up there just with that 3M adhesive.
Yeah, sorry, Don, maybe we can ask Miguel. Adil actually had some good questions. The maximum, Miguel, what is the maximum MDF thickness that the laser can cut?
That'll depend on the power of your laser. We usually use a 10 watt per millimeter thickness when it comes to cutting. So that will depend on how powerful the laser that you have is. So if you have a 30 watt machine, you can cut a 3 mil, and that's it, right? If you go really slow, you might be able to go to 4 mil or 5 mil. But again, it's all about the power. So the SP2000 that we're using right now has a 200 watt, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was
not mistaken.
Watt. Sorry, go ahead.
And we're cutting a 3 mil sheet of acrylic, but I'm using 5% speed. So it's really, really fast compared to like deep cuts in this case. So I'm using 60 to 70% power of the 200 watt to cut this, and it's cutting really fast. In any other machine, this would take like double or triple the time, so you can move a little bit.
I just wanted to add, these machines can go up to 400 watts, so you can cut some pretty thick MDF there as well.
Yep, absolutely. It's always a balance too, to sort of Miguel's point of how much of your power you'd like to use and how much of the maximum speed that you have at your disposal. Justina pointed out that on that earlier video we showed you with the blinds, there was a little bit of sort of darkening or sort of charring on the wood. One of the ways that you can avoid that is obviously to speed up the laser head, so it's not sitting in any one place on your wood for too long. But keep in mind that a lot of this also is to do with sort of aesthetic preference and that sort of thing. So, depending on which machine you end up investing in, if you were to purchase a machine, as they get larger, the maximum wattage that's available to you goes up and up and up and up and up. But it's something where you can sort of take into account, the thickness of the material you typically plan to work with versus, how big of a bed size you'd also like to work with at the same time. As I said, the basics of how the laser itself works and is going to interact with your material, pardon me, is going to be virtually unchanged from one of the smaller machines to the larger. We just want to find the right machine, to suit you in a lot of cases.
So in this case, so you guys can see, was quite fast, and it cut through entirely. So not even, no, I didn't even to pop anything. It completely cut through. Oh, there you go. One.
So that would be like a panel, like a window panel or a divider or something on a wall for interior design. It could be a piece of a larger project. Miguel, also Adil had a good question here. Can the same machine do cutting as engraving? Can you answer maybe how the machines work in terms of engraving and cutting?
Yeah, absolutely. Every machine that we have here can do both, and usually the machine starts with the engraving process and then goes to cutting. So yeah, it's a simple answer. Like,
yeah, you're basically just using a different, you're using the same machine for acrylic and cutting.
Yep.
When you're cutting, it's sort of just using the power in a slightly different way. You can oftentimes, and this is an oversimplification certainly, but you can often think of engraving just as very, very, very gentle cutting. Essentially, you're just ablating or cutting away the very top surface of the material, as opposed to endeavoring to cut directly through the material, whether it be acrylic or wood or leather or whatever we might see. I really like this question also, and thank you guys so much for all of your questions. We will try and get to as many as you can. Andy, just to really quickly clarify, so you mentioned about the SP2000 with the 200 watt laser using only 5% of the power. So Miguel has complete control, between a measure of 1% and 100% of how much of the power he'd like to use at any time. So if he wants to use 100% of the power, he absolutely can. If he wants to use 50, 25, 30, 5%, whatever he needs. But as he was sort of discussing, for something that's only 3 millimeters with a 200 watt laser, you don't need very much power to cut right through it, kind of thing.
Or you can just up the speed and have a really fast job.
Yes,
okay?
That too.
Don, can we? I know there's lots of good questions. We can move those on to maybe after we go through the other companies that we wanted to show in the next slide. Yeah, and then we can cover all these questions afterwards.
Absolutely. Well, let's go right along. No, maybe not. So we have a series of examples that we would like to show you guys. And again, all thanks to Justina for finding this wealth of different, amazing companies around the world who use lasers in interior design. I'm really, really excited to show you guys some really more practical and, sort of within your industry specifically uses of the laser. I'd like to begin with wood. Certainly we can get into greater discussion of any of these. Again, obviously any questions you have, we would love to answer them as best we can. This is a fantastic sort of use of the laser in the same way as we sort of saw with the chandeliers at the beginning of our presentation, but just in a far more sort of, I would argue, elaborate, design. Each of these pieces, to my understanding, is made, I believe they made it here. Yeah, it's a plywood, which, I wouldn't often associate with like a very, super ritzy material, let's say, but I believe the finish you get here is really, really beautiful.
Yeah, and the fact that the wood is quite thin also is of benefit because you can use the material in its natural form without having that charring, which again, sometimes is somebody's aesthetic preference. And interestingly enough, a lot of times, I'm not sure with these specific pieces, but as you saw the chandelier video, there's no adhesive required because the pieces fit into one another. And of course, it should be tested whether the material can sustain itself for extended periods of time without adhesive, but it definitely is possible to piece it together like a puzzle.
100%. And again, I'm going to keep referring back to this, but one of the greatest things about lasers, because you have such flexibility with the different materials, conceivably, were you working for this company, you could construct this same piece from, acrylic, you could construct the same piece from plastic, you'd be able to use the same file in order to, recreate the design from a variety of different materials, providing, that the structural integrity was there. This is a really beautiful example. Justina, would you be able to speak to this just a little bit?
Of course. So this was a project that a designer did for the interior of a shopping facility. I believe it was a Target. And the really interesting thing here is that they use lasers to create a laser engraved mural, essentially. So if you look more closely, you'll see that there are planks of wood, perhaps cedar or cherry. I'm not 100% sure, but nevertheless, they used some vector-based images there to create beautiful scenery. So even in addition to the photos that you saw being engraved on the stone in one of the video examples, with vector engraving, you're able to really create these unique essentially viewscapes that showcase the uniqueness of or the character of a given area. So in this case, they have some water pieces, some instruments there, perhaps that are unique to the area.
The sort of Viking longboat here that you can see in the, the left side.
Of course.
Cool
Yeah, and I just want to add to Justina's point, you don't need a massive laser like the SP2000 to create something like this. You can scale from smaller pieces of wood, and we actually have tutorials on how to scale from, you know, even like the 300 laser that Miguel is using. You can build something as big as that wall.
Yeah.
I mean, this to some degree also speaks to that. I think that thank you. Yeah, laser goals. Hashtag. This company does beautiful, beautiful sort of interior clad room dividers and partitions, all done with laser, and I believe a variety of materials, if I'm not mistaken, Justina, or is it wood principally that this company works with? Yeah,
so you could use MDF, you could use Corian, for example. So yes, the Corian that's used to make countertops, it can be used for laser purposes, and it holds up well outdoors. But in these cases, you can use solid wood. So for example, in addition to oak and cherry, you can also use alder, maple, and with thinner woods, you can essentially create an applique that you can add to a wall. So this image shows, you know, depending obviously on the thickness that you want, but you can use really, really thin wood, so similar to the thickness that you might have seen on those light fixtures, to create really unique designs. So whether it's that hidden door, ceiling panels, wall dividers, and even furniture panels. So I don't know if you have the sample there. One company, what they did was they created an armchair and actually had panels below the armrests. So there's definitely a lot that a simple panel can do.
So this one, now, if I'm not mistaken, this was the fabric itself of the upholstery here that was engraved to create this beautiful sort of honeycomb pattern on the material itself in order to do the upholstery, and something that is completely bespoke and unique. I mean, certainly this one here is made with sort of like a geometric pattern, but you could essentially engrave just about anything, you know, as long as you were able to sort of create it as sit in your. Yeah, there's a beautiful example. So Miguel's engraved a gorgeous pattern here into our MDF, both in sort of a negative and positive, you know, version of it. And again, just another great example of how you can leverage something, you know, really, really beautiful and really, really intricate in a cool way. I have to say, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to admire its beauty as well and the creativity of the designer. So this material, it's Alcantara, which is a synthetic, if you can imagine a micro suede like material. So what you'd get, as I mentioned before, are the flame sealed edges, but what you can also do is engrave the material because it's synthetic. And as Don mentioned earlier as well, lasing something is essentially burning it in a controlled manner, but not burning as in frying it, but rather melting it in this case. So when you engrave a synthetic fabric, you typically get a darker shade. So as you see that honeycomb pattern there, that's an example of that effect, where the engravings are darker than the surrounding non-engraved material.
I wanted to return really quickly back here as well, because I think this sort of speaks to something that Lev was discussing earlier, and then again to that same sort of point. So this is a beautiful, beautiful sort of patterned effect that's created by this particular company using sort of slats of wood to create like a mosaic feel. What I love about it is that, you know, you could do each one of these individual pieces in a laser that was no larger than the sort of slat of wood that you wanted to use. I mean, you could create this very easily with a large laser like Miguel's using there, but a smaller laser just big enough for that one piece at a time would be more than capable of building something as intricate.
Yeah, that one was actually one of my favorites, Don. If you can scroll down, so they like scroll down to the black and white. So they've actually used this kind of rustic old look. Keep scrolling down, keep scrolling. It's right there. So that's the pattern. No, go up a bit. So that's the pattern that they're engraving. So they made it look like it's old and rustic, even though it's not. Obviously, it's brand new. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful concept there.
No doubt.
Yeah, and if you look at the initial photo there at the very top, it adds a nice contrast, or instead of contrast, I should say, an added dimension of detail to the simple, really, I guess you could describe it as Nordic style, correct me if I'm wrong, interior designers, bathroom design that they have. So in my view, it adds some character and a little bit more complexity, but also it's as Lev mentioned, it's really unique that you're able to achieve this effect that looks like ceramic tile, but it's made purely out of wood. So I sing the highest praises of the designers.
I wanted to highlight this company as well. Pardon me. Oh my goodness. I wanted to highlight this as well. Justina sort of touched on this earlier when she was speaking about, like the perforation effect that you can achieve. In this case, this is a fabric blind. I assume, very similar to any sort of vertical blind or any sort of typical blind, but done in a way that I think really showcases the level of detail and the sort of very, very tiny attention to detail that you can do with a laser. That one I really, really love, but this one as well, this sort of cool overlapping. Let's see if I can get a better picture of it here. But
yeah, so that's actually a window film, interestingly enough.
This one here.
Yeah, so instead of vinyl, they developed, Creation Bauman, which is the textile manufacturing company. They created a film, but as well as various shades that you'll see and blinds that you'll see on this page and on various pages as well. So you can, again, speaking to what I mentioned earlier, you can create really, really unique patterns via perforation, and they still serve their purpose. As you'll see, it's, in that photo, it's sunny outside. The perforations only let through a little bit of light, so they still serve their main purpose while adding an additional aesthetic dimension to that project. And you could go a little bit simpler as well. So for example, if your client prefers only several perforations as opposed to something that's incredibly complex, that's also possible as well and can be done very, very quickly.
Absolutely. And all accomplished in the same way, right? I hope we're beginning to sort of show that, with these different applications, particularly like that one we were just showing, the sort of wave pattern is not all that different from the sort of patterns that you saw being cut into the wood earlier, or the patterns being done by Miguel on the acrylic. Again, all done with that same sort of mentality and design style, but just varying out the different materials and the different applications. This one I think is really cool for a very just sort of brief touchdown. This is a sort of an acoustic foam, if I'm not mistaken, right? Justine, this is like a cool.
Yes, a synthetic felt. So felt typically comes in two forms. So there are certainly more, but the two main forms are natural wool, which is, just like your hair from sheep, but also synthetic felt that's made out of polyethylene. And as a synthetic material, polyethylene lends itself better, I would say, to laser cutting and engraving. And one of the really interesting application that's gaining popularity, especially in public thoroughfares, is the use of acoustic panels, because it helps to absorb the sound to lower some of the, of course, the high sound levels that could be reached in those types of areas. And in the case of PET, so polyethylene felt, you can cut and engrave, but you typically see more cutting going on. So you can get those geometric patterns. So similar to what Miguel cut out just a little while ago, the acrylic screen there, you can also create out of felt.
Sorry, Justina, I just wanted to add, this felt, that's engraving patterns, right? That's not cutting in this case.
In this case, I'm not 100% sure, but this company, it does have laser processing capabilities. So you can't, if you were to go on the page, you wouldn't be able to tell 100% for sure. But if you wanted to perhaps test it yourself or contact the company, you could.
No, I mean, it definitely looks engraved. We have a customer out in BC that they do felt. All they do is felt, and it actually looks exactly like this when you engrave it. So again, you can combine engraving and cutting. You could do it separately. Miguel was doing cutting on the SP2000, and he's doing engraving there on the 300. So it's a combination, or it's one or the other.
This is sort of in a similar vein, but a much more, aesthetic, I would argue. This one was done as a felt wall pattern, but done using very, very sort of intricate cuts and the combination of different sized, applications here to create these really, really beautiful panels. All using one color or at most two colors of a single material in order to create something that I would argue is, really, really stand out. When you look at something like this and think that each individual piece was cut using the laser with a large enough laser, potentially even all at once, it is just an incredible feat, in my opinion, that you can accomplish.
Yeah, and once again, it's the marriage of function and form, where functionally, of course, with its sound absorbing properties, it could bring benefit to a space in that way, but it's also aesthetically pleasing and serves as a wall piece, not as a single panel, which also highlights the interior design capabilities and the customization capabilities of using laser technology to create these types of shapes.
Exactly. Moving right along to sort of the stone portion, as we sort of spoke to a little bit earlier, Justina was talking about doing a stone medallion, for example, that you would place in either like a lobby or a decorative area. To my understanding, Justina, these are all engraved, porcelain or different tiles.
Yes, to my understanding, that's what the company's created, and as you can see, they're not just literally bespoke as in they belong in one single place, but what you can also do with laser engraved tiles is you can create simple designs that are applicable to a variety of different spaces. So now you're moving past kind of the customization for a specific space, which you might see in restaurants, hotels, so on, but you're moving into more of a, I would say, domestic space with these, where they can, as you can see, some of the simpler patterns, they can match a variety of different bathrooms and kitchens across the world, essentially. So no, it's there. And the great thing too is it's a value add for clients, and with the laser system, it's not it wouldn't set the price point too high, which is great because it would make these design possibilities very accessible as well.
I just get absolutely lost in looking at these. I envision my all tiled home that would be cold and beautiful. Moving right along, in sort of a similar vein, we saw, Lev was sort of speaking to the beauty that was achieved earlier in that sort of mosaicked wood design. This is, I guess, from a sort of similar standpoint, but done again using sort of a stone tile. It's very, very faint here. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's a very subtle effect, but the sort of detail that's achieved on these various forms of tile. Here's my favorite one. Yeah. Just through engraving, ablating the surface of them, I think is incredible, particularly when you can create such a disparate pattern and create a beautiful mosaic, by sort of stitching them together.
Yes, and just in case any laser users want to go out and start testing tiles, the best route forward would be to get one tile and create a matrix. So we have a video on how to do that, because there's a lot of differences between tiles. So you can have natural stone, so whether you're looking at a marble or granite, and then you can have clays, so porcelain and ceramic. But also if you look at porcelain and ceramic, for example, some of them have glaze, some of them don't, which will yield different results. So the best way and the surefire way to know whether you're going to get the results that you expect is to test.
Exactly. And also, never hesitate to reach out to your local Trotec, the salespeople here, the material specialists. We spend a lot of time just testing different materials, getting to know what works well with the laser and in what way, particularly if you have a Trotec, of course. So, we are more than happy to try and answer your questions if we can to provide you, the insight that we've gained over the time of testing to your benefit, hopefully. Mm-hmm. Just a few more here really quick. This I think is possibly the standout for me of all of the examples that we can show. This one, I believe, so it's specifically this stone tiled floor, if I'm not mistaken, right, Justina? It's the
So there are, according to the designer Larry Kirkland, who I sing my praises to, because he and his team have done some tremendous work, which is the interior of various public and institutional buildings, as you see here. I believe that this is a terrarium, so it's a public space, and of course the designs that he created for this space are breathtaking, really, and the high degree of detail that's achieved here can be achieved via laser technology.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, so stainless steel panels, engraved with topographic maps and different things, black granite and also white marble, all three engraved using the laser. It's just incredible, I think.
And it's really interesting because more and more, especially with the development of maker culture, we're seeing designers that are more in tune with how the materials are processed. And that helps a lot to understand the laser technology, because if you understand the technology, how it works, what the results are, that can enhance your designs because you can understand what is achievable.
Yeah, exactly right.
And it helps reduce a lot of back and forth, asking the manufacturer, fabricator, is this possible? Which material is best? That way,
exactly.
That way, off the bat, at least, perhaps not perfectly, but you have more or less an idea of what you can achieve, what can be accomplished, and what you can showcase to your clients so that you can add value to their projects.
I really feel like Phil says it well in saying that, this was basically, our goal for the entire presentation, Phil, to be honest with you, is just to sort of say, to our mind, lasers really do open the door for designers, regardless of what it is that you would like to do with the machine. At that point, we sort of turn the machine over to you and sort of say, if you have any questions about material, about, the way to, work with a particular, design or whatever it might be, certainly we're here to try and help. But we know that you guys are going to be far more capable and far more creative, when it comes to this stuff than we certainly ever will be. This, I think, would you be able to sort of speak to marquetry, Justina, a little bit? So this sort of, wraps up some of our examples here, but this is done in different sections of wood, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, so marquetry, if anyone's familiar with it, has a lengthy history, and essentially it's cutting out really, really thin pieces of wood veneer traditionally, and then adhering them to case goods. So, for example, a cabinet, a credenza, a dresser, and now it's been really revived, and the process has been made a lot more efficient via laser processing. Because with the laser, what you're able to do, and you can check out some of the inlay videos on the YouTube channel for more info about more or less how it's done, but you can compare it to a really intricate wood inlay. That's where you cut out, again, that piece with the veneer that you want, the inlay, that part that you're going to adhere to the actual solid wood, and then you also engrave that pattern into the solid wood, so you have a nice little pocket that's made. Clamp those pieces together, and you have a really, really luxurious, unique piece of furniture there. And typically you'll see these in more upscale homes, but also in, for example, restaurants that have a unique character that harkens to centuries ago.
Definitely. Perhaps you have, some wood tabletops with some beautiful custom marquetry in it next to the stone tabletops that you've engraved with your same laser. I mean, that's unbelievably detailed. Wow. And then,
of course, imagine doing that by hand.
Well, exactly. And that's just it. And even this final piece, which, is perhaps in some regards slightly simpler, I suppose, than the pieces we were just showing. But again, having to do this by hand, particularly in terms of just ensuring that across the entire piece that you have an exactly perfect replication of the pattern every single time. I mean, it requires a lot of skill. And it's not to say certainly that, it's taking anything away from that, but it's just to say that the laser facilitates the creation of that more quickly and more, on a more dependable time schedule, let's say, in terms of the way that it allows you to account for the costing of these things for your customers is unbelievable.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to what you mentioned, in case anyone's interested in doing a little bit more research. The UK is at the forefront of what I kind of consider for myself to be the modern marquetry movement. So with modern marquetry, what it encompasses, in my words, is the use of different materials that weren't traditionally used. So you're moving beyond woods, and this is a good example of that, where I believe that the artisan used formica. So they used laminate instead of wood, plastic-based material, to create that veneer that goes on that on the wood, on, I believe, solid wood material. And what modern marquetry, again, in my view, incorporates is, in addition to the use of novel materials that weren't traditionally used, is more modern design. So as opposed to perhaps birds and, so for example, Ace Marquetry here, they have incredibly beautiful pieces that are more traditional, but what you see is a lot more repetitive patterns that have a modern twist on them. So keep your eyes out on those, and by all means, encourage you to try out your own materials as well. Just make sure they're PVC free, because that's one of the materials really to be aware of. No PVC.
Absolutely. Really quickly, again, just coming back to some of the points I think we've touched on as we've been going here, but as a really quick recap, if you're going to be looking at a laser machine for yourself, and we hope you'll get in touch with us for a web demo or an in-person demo, again, don't hesitate to reach out. Here are some of the things we think that you likely want to consider. First and foremost, obviously, is going to be, to Miguel's point from earlier, a combination of bed size and power. So how big of a bed do you think you'll need, or sort of a working area, I should say, do you think you'll need in order to accommodate the pieces you're most likely to be working with? And then as a counterpoint to that, how much power do you think you'll need either to cut directly through or to engrave the pieces that you want to make? Definitely in terms of durability, that's something that we're really proud of here at Trotec. As I showed sort of earlier in the presentation, we have a dedicated tech team across the country. So if ever anything were to happen with your laser, we don't expect that it will, but of course, perhaps you want to, look into getting a second lens, or having somebody out to do sort of a preventative maintenance look on your laser to make sure it's going to continue to work beautifully into the future. That's something we really pride ourselves on and is made quickly available to you. Same from a quality standpoint. Certainly we are biased, but it's our belief that Trotec produces the highest quality engraving and laser cutting machines in the world. We invite you to come out, see for yourselves. Definitely do a demo with us. Send us your sample material you'd like to work with. Do not hesitate. We'd be very happy to test it out. But it's a product that we really stand behind. In terms of the applications, I invite you again to review sort of what we talked about at the beginning of the presentation when you have more time for yourself, looking at which laser source maybe fits your particular material the best. In terms of ease of use, again, this is something that we really strive to help you with. We have a lot of great YouTube videos and tutorials, as Justina mentioned. Every laser comes with, some free training with the very talented Miguel, obviously, as you've seen in this particular presentation. But then on top of that, also, if you're already familiar with working with design softwares, the transition into using it for laser or designing specifically for laser is really not that hard. There are a few small rules that you may have to bear in mind, but it's nothing that's too hopefully imposing on the type of designs that you already do. And then, coming back to the question of support, a tech team across all of Canada is not just for show. We have, trained experts in every single one of our 4 branches who are ready to come out either by phone or in person to help you, make the repairs or to support your machine in whatever way you sort of need.
And I just wanted to emphasize, as a final point for this discussion here, the importance of quality when it comes to creating something for interior design, because with the variety of lasers that are available on the market, the pieces that you don't see tend to be incredibly crucial. So for example, you'll see the speedy system that Miguel has going on the camera there. Its movement is important to the quality of the engraving and the cut that you'll get, because that gantry moves on a Trotec machine very smoothly, whereas on some lower quality machines that have a different motion system, I won't get into that whole can of worms here, but essentially it can create a more choppy look. I don't guarantee that it'll create a choppy look, but it often can, especially when cutting different materials. And when it comes to engraving, there's something called beam quality, if you wanted to Google that also requires higher quality components. So if you're planning to implement any types of laser engraved or cut products into a design scheme, or whether you're looking to service clients with laser engraving and cutting for interior design, it's crucial to have a machine that has the quality capabilities to execute properly.
100%. Justina gave you the secret keywords to, when you go to a laser demo, ask about beam quality and they'll be blown away. But, the insights, the things to ask for 100%. Really quickly, this is sort of the last point we wanted to touch on, and then I'd be very excited to get to some of the great questions we've been, receiving through chat. And thank you all again for joining us today. Speaking really quickly to outside of the machine itself, how Trotec, looks to support our customers. There is a starter kit which comes with every single one of our lasers. So contained in the starter kit is a little USB key that has all of the artwork files, all the different designs that you see on our YouTube channel. We have all the manuals for our different lasers, the parameters, so the speed and power settings that Miguel was discussing earlier. We have over 15 different materials, sort of in a 12 by let me think, it's 12 by 24, I believe, pieces for you to test out, so that there's no investment sort of on your part in order to be able to try a bunch of different materials, experiment with some different things and have fun, hopefully. They cover, most of the big groups of materials that we offer. And certainly, we hope that you'll come back to see us again for materials, but at the very least, we know that it'll give you a good starting point to start testing out your laser. The 86-page engraver's guide is an absolute how-to manual. It's essential. It goes from very basic stuff to very advanced tips and tricks. And then the demo menu, which just, in a nutshell, gives you an application and an ROI case for each of those applications to go along with each of the materials we provide you. So, a sample project that you can do with each of the 15 different materials, and then also sort of an ROI case for how you might look at marketing that material, or how you might look at pricing, selling that material to one of your customers. We're frequently holding seminars and webinars just like this one, especially, at the moment. We have one-on-one training, as we mentioned earlier, that's available with Miguel, either again in person or over the internet. We have technicians across Canada, always available for phone and tech support, as I mentioned again. All of the consumables, the parts and accessories, basically everything you've seen in this video is stored right behind me here in Canada. We have several warehouses that accompany our offices across the country. So if you ever do need to get an extra lens or an extra table, or you need something quickly for a special project you're doing, no problem. It's shipping from right here in Canada, as opposed to, from our home office in Austria. All of the sort of material binders, the fan stands, the things that you see there sort of in the corner. If you want to offer, Trotec acrylics, let's say, for example, we can give you a really cool, beautiful, almost like a Pantone swatch book, so that you can show all the different colors that would be available to your customers, and then, go from there. And then finally, we talk it to death, but we absolutely adore it. The YouTube channel, Lev's Baby, which has, I think at this point, close to 500 videos. I say that because I can see him, you see, but yeah, there he is. Thank you, Lev. Close to 500 videos, everything from tutorials like the one you see mentioned over here. And Justina sort of mentioned the tutorials in particular that I think are really great, but also all the different projects that we've done over the years. Every time we launch a new material, we try and do a couple of projects showcasing it and letting you know, what you might like to try and do with it. So we really are here always. If you would like to come in for a demo, if you'd like to ask us any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, certainly. More importantly, though, shall we look at some of these questions here? I know we've hit the hour, but there's a lot of great questions.
Yeah, we can go. We can go a little bit over. We have a good one here from Tony. Do you have any videos that show the Flex works with both laser types? So if you actually go to YouTube and type in Trotec Flex Zone, that's with 2 X's. The 2 X's represent the CO2 and the fiber. There's a bunch of videos that we did for Flex, like how to create a jig, or this one with the mirror. That's a particularly cool one, where the mirrored acrylic, the fiber laser actually goes through the acrylic to engrave the bottom, the bottom layer, and then you can cut it. Exactly, you can cut it, the acrylic, with the CO2 laser. So that's one of those.
I guess that's more done to. So Adil mentions in a similar, what is the difference between the CO2 and the fiber optic machines? Perhaps we could have Miguel speak to this, but I think, principally it's just to do with the laser source. It's to do with the way that the laser itself is created. I don't know if Miguel is.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to go too much into theory, but I mean, all you want to remember is fiber is for metal marking, and CO2 is for everything else: paper, leather, fabric, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested specifically with metal working as well, that's what the Flex is for. I know people asked us about pricing, so we can't give pricing over the internet. Every country has different pricing, for shipping, taxes, and all that sort of thing. So you can always email us, youtube@troteclaser.ca. If you're not in Canada, we'll forward you off to the country where you're from, and they can give you pricing.
I love this question from Ben. Can we buy the consumables even if we don't own a Trotec? Absolutely, 100%. As Lev sort of mentioned in the chat here, if you visit engraving-supplies.ca, you can sign up for a free account, and we have over 1,000 different materials, different accessories, all sorts of cool things that will work very handily with any laser. Obviously, the benefit of using Trotec materials with a Trotec laser is we can most easily assist you in terms of offering suggested settings, ways to achieve, the sort of effects that you see in our YouTube videos. But absolutely do not hesitate to try out our materials. We really recommend them, of course.
Yeah, we have a question here we had from Plastic a while back. Can you talk more about speed, power, and lens choices for optimized laser quality and products? I mean, we could talk about that to death, really, but there's lots of videos. I mean, we just can't spend enough time to start talking about power and speed. And definitely the lens choices. One quick comment I can mention is the smaller the lens, the more detailed your engraving. So if you're doing photo engraving, you want a 1.5-inch lens. The bigger the lens is, the thicker the cuts that you can do. And obviously, if it's not a flat surface, if it's like we did a skateboard, we have a skateboard video that we showed 2 different lenses, where a bigger lens you have more to work with. So to engrave the edges when it's not even, without actually having any kind of burn marks. So that's a little bit about the lenses, but I do recommend you can send us an email. Miguel actually does one-on-one trainings, and he can go through all that stuff through a video training course with you guys as well.
We have a question here also from Ben earlier on. So asking about the large scale machines, that they're not enclosed and how do they handle the fumes. So that's a very good point. The large scale machines have a very powerful ventilation system that is routed directly through the sort of overhead gantry that you saw moving the laser head around. So the fumes are absorbed either down into the machine itself and out through the ventilation that way, or up into the head and out. Each of the different machines, is sort of, when you come into the showroom, you'll be able to see for yourselves, and certainly in any of our videos you can see them. We have different sizes of ventilation machines with different CFMs depending on the machine that you're looking at, the laser machine. But rest assured also that for the majority of our machines, you can also vent them outdoors. So, if you were going to put this machine into your garage or your basement, as many of our customers do, the ventilation isn't a must necessarily. You can vent these machines outdoors, or you install a ventilation machine depending on, what serves you best. But rest assured certainly that the ventilation either for our big machines or our smaller machines is sort of designed so as to make sure that the laser is never obscured when it's working.
Yeah, and I also have this question here. What is the maximum single pass acrylic cut thickness capability for 120 watt? We usually say for every 10 watts, it's about a 1 millimeter cut. So 120 watt, you can easily cut 12 mil acrylic with one single pass. I mean, it really depends on the type of fume extraction that you have, preventing it outside, or if you're using a filter unit like our Atmos or Quattro filters. But yeah, double pass, definitely. I see that question there. You can cut, I mean, we sell 20 mil acrylic. That's typically used for this kind of application. With multiple passes, even with a single pass, with a good enough extraction, you can cut 20 mil acrylic in a single pass.
Really quickly, if it's okay, I'd like to mention this too.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Perhaps just as a last, Adil, that's a very good question. We touched on it just in passing, but I'd like to circle back. Absolutely, with the purchase of a Trotec machine, you'll receive 2 hours of training. It is sort of tailored to the person to a certain degree. Principally, the 2 hours that comes with the machine is dedicated to looking at the software that you are going to be using principally, whether it be, as Justina mentioned, CorelDRAW, Inkscape, Illustrator, whatever it might be, and then bridging that with our proprietary software, Job Control, that comes free with the laser. So just making sure that you are in a position to start working on your jobs right away, making sure that you understand like second nature, those rules of designing for the laser, how to interpret a CorelDRAW file for the laser, whatever it might be. And then, any extra time that we might have, certainly Miguel's always open to questions. He loves problem solving and a challenge. But, should you ever want to look at doing, if you're working in signage for, a couple of years and you're loving it, and then you have a customer ask you to do metal engraving or photo engraving, no problem. You can always reach out. We can always do further trainings down the road if you like.
Yeah, and one quick final question. Can an 80-watt machine be upgraded to 100-watt? I know for sure a 60-watt can be upgraded to an 80-watt. I don't think an 80-watt can be to 100. Correct me if I'm wrong, Don. I mean, we're not, I think, Ratna, you're from Australia. You might want to double check with the techs in Australia, at Trotec Australia. They can tell you for sure if you can upgrade your laser. I think with all that being said, I just want to thank Don, Justine, and Miguel. You guys did a terrific job on this this presentation. Really great. I'm going to pop out. So Don, you could kind of end it there, but thank you guys for watching.
Absolutely. I really can't say it any better than that. Thank you so much again to my colleagues and to all of you for watching. We will certainly be looking for a means of making this downloadable for you. So don't sweat that. Either, we'll very likely get in contact with the IDC and with our own, customers in order that we can send a link and get you a copy of the presentation so you can review it at your leisure. But, more than anything, again, I want to stress, for probably the 100th time, any questions at all, do not hesitate to reach out to us. YouTube at troteclaser.ca. I get it out right. YouTube at troteclaser.ca. You can reach out to any of us individually. You'll find our contact information oftentimes on our YouTube channel, Trotec Canada on YouTube. We hope to hear from you in the near future. We are here to help. We are here to answer any of your questions, and we are always offering in-person and online demos. So, Justina, any sort of final thoughts at all?
No, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It was a real pleasure. And if there's any types of applications you'd like to explore, any kinds of questions that you have, feel free to reach us at that email address right there, youtube at troteclaser.ca. Because these videos essentially and these events give us a great opportunity to be able to connect with those who are interested in laser technology, as well as new and seasoned laser users. So it's a great pleasure for us to be able to help you out.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better. We hope to hear from you all soon. Take care.